All right, everyone, we're back to make one brief but important distinction, and that is the difference between a change in demand, that is delta D, right? Change in demand, the whole demand relationship, and a change in the quantity demanded, so delta QD. So this is change in demand. Change in demand means a change in the entire demand relationship, right? So that is, it is moving, right, or shifting out. There's an increase in demand. Pick a different color. Here is a decrease in demand. So a change in demand, right? So delta D is change in demand. It's a change in the entire demand relationship. The whole thing shifts. That's a movement of the curve. So what are the kinds of things that could move this? What causes the demand curve to shift? I feel like we might have just talked about this, right? There's a whole list, right? So make a note. That's not the best color for down there, is it? What is the best color for down there? C list. Right there, that list of categories: change in the price of a related good, change in wealth or income, outside force, change in the number of people in the market. Right, that list we just made, those are things that shift the demand curve. They move the entire demand relationship. Now, that we got to distinguish that, though, from this other situation, a change in quantity demanded. Right, that's delta QD. A change in quantity demanded is much simpler, right? Here's our demand curve. What's our demand curve made up of? It tells you the quantity demanded over a whole range of prices. It tells you the quantity demanded at this price and the quantity demanded at this price, or this one, right? Any point on here, and that's supposed to be on the curve, it tells you, all right, at this point right here, it tells you that at this price, here is the quantity demanded. And if you change the price, you raise the price up to here, the quantity demanded goes down to here. So a change in quantity demanded is just a movement from one point on the curve to another point on the curve. So we should probably specify that, right? This is a movement, a shift in the curve, and this is a movement along the curve. You're moving from one point on the curve to another point on the curve. And so on the left, change in demand, you can see the list. That's all the things that might cause that, the categories of the kinds of things that would cause it. What's the only thing that moves you from one point on the curve to another point on the curve? A change in the price of the good. You could even say the current price. Change in the current price of the good. Because we do know on the list there's the change in the expectations about the future price. That can shift the demand curve. But the one big thing that is not on that list that we talked about previously is a change in the current price of the good. And you have to be careful because it's easy to slip into a little sloppy thinking there. You say, oh, well, if the price of apples goes up, what happens to the demand for apples? Nothing, right? If the price of apples goes up, you move along the demand curve and find a new quantity demanded. It should be smaller than it was before. That's a movement along the curve. So don't slip into the sloppy thinking where you're like, oh, well, when the price of cars goes up, demand for cars goes down. No, it doesn't, right? When price goes up, when the current price of a good goes up, you're moving along the demand curve. That demand curve tells you the quantity demanded over a whole range of prices. So this is the one and only thing that will move you along the demand curve, right? Is a change in the price. And it is like the big important thing that's not on the list to the left. When you look through that list, a change in the price of related goods, change in expectations about the future price of the actual good, change in lots of other things, but not a change in the price of the good. So just tuck that away. In fact, I've got one quick example for you here. I choose this example for two reasons. One, because it's, I guess, fun and provocative and it's good review. And then two, it shows you can use econ to think about a whole lot of different areas. So, which of the following will not affect the demand for marijuana? All right. A decrease in the number of pot smokers. Would that affect the demand for marijuana? Well, that sounds like a change in the number of people in that market, right? If fewer people are smoking it, then you'd expect the demand for marijuana to go down. So that is not going to be the correct answer. A state law legalizing pot smoking. Well, this is where the intuition comes in. If a state legalizes pot smoking, what if the federal government legalizes pot smoking? That would, you could call that an outside force probably, right? Or a change in taste and preferences, however you want to think about it. Like, that list is just to help you organize your thoughts and understand the intuition. But the bottom line is, if you make it legal, you'd expect more people, right, would be interested or willing to do it, or that some of the people who do smoke would do it more because there's less risk involved. So you'd expect that if you legalize pot, the demand for pot would probably increase. So the question says which of the following will not affect, so that can't be the right answer. Decrease in the price of pot. So if the price of pot goes down, what happens to the demand for pot? Lower price, nothing happens in the demand for pot, right? I paused there thinking you'd say, well, when the price goes down, demand goes up, except it doesn't, right? What does the demand tell you? Nice quantity, I'll just say pot, that's fewer letters. If the price of pot goes down from this price to this price, you just move along the curve, right, to a new and larger quantity demanded. So C sounds pretty promising. Let's just double check let's be thorough and look at D as well. A decrease in the price of alcohol, which here I'm stipulating is a complement to pot smoking. A decrease in the price of alcohol. So if alcohol becomes cheaper, and if in fact they are complements, which is what the problem here stipulates, then if people want to consume them together and the price of alcohol goes down, the law of demand says that lower price in alcohol, people would consume more of it. So therefore, if these are complementary goods, you expect the demand for pot to increase. So that's not the right answer. I'm going to stick with C, final answer, a decrease in the price of pot. And of course, that's to illustrate what we just talked about. A change in the current price of the good we're talking about will not shift the demand curve. That's a movement along the demand curve. Now, finally, this thing about them being complements, but what would make me believe that? I'm not a smoker, but I am an economist, and other economists, if we open this up, here's a paper. I should follow up and see where it's actually published because this is old now, but this was the working paper version. These are accomplished economists, and here is the paper, Alcohol and Marijuana Use Among College Students, Economic Complements or Substitutes. They have an extensive paper, and in here are the right ones these are the authors: University of Illinois at Chicago, the National Bureau of Economic Research, Illinois, and NBER, Harvard School of Public Health. Right, these are all PhDs. These are competent people who are working on this. They get the data, they crunch the numbers, and they say, well, how, and so basically they say as schools become stricter about enforcing policies against binge drinking and alcohol, what happens to marijuana use, and that they found basically that they are complements. Right, we find that alcohol and marijuana are economic complements, and that policies that increase the full price of alcohol decrease participation in marijuana use. And so here, this is economics everywhere, right? These are economists using the tools to think about these, and that which have policy implications, right? This, if you're an administrator at a college, this might be of interest to you in figuring out how to best manage your school, protect student health, and there you go. All right, the takeaway though from this is really about the difference between change in demand and change in quantity demanded, not the relationship between alcohol and pot. All right, and on that note, we'll sign off